Hi folks, this is Jack Spirico with another survival podcast video, and I'm going to talk today about something that I've been asked an awful lot about, and it's called blight and other diseases with tomatoes and how to prevent them. And when I show you something like this, you might be thinking, this is the last guy I want to tell me how to control blight, because obviously he's not very good at it. Let me get this bucket out of the way here. Hopefully also you'll get a better audio experience. It's pretty windy today, but I got a new shotgun mic. I'm sure there'll still be some background noise, but it should be better. So we'll see how that works out. You can let me know in the comments section about that. But if you look at this, I wanted to show you the results of blight, what eventually happens, and this is what happens. I consider blight tomato cancer. Once it gets it, you can control it, you can slow the spread, but eventually the patient is going to be terminally ill. Now, nice enough for us that we've gotten actually a lot of really good cherry tomatoes off of this plant, and that's been really nice this year. In fact, I'd say we probably got at least 150 tomatoes off this plant, even though it was sick. The reason that I show you this plant, though, is to show you, I want to show you the difference between a plant that was treated and a plant that wasn't treated. I found a product I'll show you in just a second called Serenade, and I used that this year, and this cherry tomato and another cherry tomato, both were already deep into what I think is early blight. And it's hard to tell which blight is which, but this appears to be early blight, and it's about the worst thing you can get. You can see that the plant is just bare. And I treated the other plant, and I'll show you what it looks like being treated. I'm convinced now that if I had found this treatment, this Serenade stuff, earlier in the year and started the treatment on this as soon as it was planted, I would have avoided this altogether. One thing I did was container gardening. This plant I started in February, brought it indoors every time it got cold. That's why we got so much production out of it. I was also hoping that the container would rule out some of the blight, because blight, especially early blight, actually enters into the roots through the soil, which is why it's so hard to control. It's not something that actually forms on the leaves, and that's why you'll see it work its way up. You know, up here at the very top, this plant actually still looks healthy, but it's just not going to produce at all, because you can see that it's sick. And you can see right here, this is a perfect example of how it just absolutely destroys. Again, call it tomato cancer. That's what blight's like. So let me pause for a second, and I'll show you the other plant that was treated. Again, it's not really healthy, but you can see the difference the treatment has made. And again, I want you to understand, I didn't start applying this treatment until the plant already had blight. So as you can see, this plant, and there's a, let me turn it because there's a sunflower there. This plant also is still dealing with the clutches of blight, but it's not completely eaten away. It's bearing quite a bit of fruit. We'll probably get tomatoes off of this plant for quite some time to come before we have to give it up. But it is also kind of getting to the point where this pot would be more productive if I planted anything in it than to keep trying to string this along. Even though it looks relatively okay, you can see it is dying. I have been spraying it with the Serenade. Again, I'll give you a screenshot of the Serenade product so you can take a look at what it looks like. And you can order it online if you want to. And you just mix it to directions, and you mist it on the plant about once a week. And it's actually a natural bacteria. And as you can see, even though this plant was pretty much terminal when I started treating it, I did it as an experiment, a control. 2 plants at the same stage of the disease. Will the treatment matter? And for those that want to stay organic, Serenade is a 100% organic product. It also has no effect on insects or anything like that. It's not an insecticide. It's a bacteria that attacks fungus, and it particularly attacks fungus like early blight and late blight and other things that affect tomatoes. Let me show you the last gasp of my beautiful black crim tomatoes that were gorgeous a week ago and are now about to be fallen for the final time. So here I am with my black crims, and the only saving grace is that I got an awful lot of tomatoes out of here already, probably 40 black crim tomatoes, and I'll get a few more. Those of you that saw the video, or you can go look at the video I did 2 weeks ago, maybe a week and a half ago, where I was putting in the extra bean trellis. These plants were in that video, and they were beautiful, and look at them now. You can see straight through them, especially the further we get over here away from the beans. And the beans seem to have provided some protection. The healthier plants are actually here with the runner beans. But you can see, and let me tell you what you do to try to control this. And I've done this for as long as I can, and the reality is, again, I've got a space here that's going to be so unproductive. I'm better off in this weekend, I'll just extract all of these tomato vines and give up on them. Even though this, I mean, this looks healthy, right? This looks healthy, but let's just go ahead and take it off because it's not going anywhere. You see that right there? That's blight. That's that cancer working its way through the inside of the plant, up the plant. You can see it just a little bit more as you go up, and those are dead. And then here's the real thing. You see the blossoms? The blossoms are just shot. They're not going to produce any tomatoes. And even though up here looks really healthy, everything from about there down is dead, and that's going to be infected and die off really, really quick. What you can do, big rule, never touch anything when it's wet when you're dealing with this. Always dry. You can come in and you can cut off the diseased branches. If you have a branch, okay, I paused there. We were getting dive bombed by a low-flying aircraft. It was just too noisy. If you have a branch that only looks like it's a little bit bothered on the outside and it looks like maybe you could cut the tip off, don't bother. Cut the whole thing off right at the vine. Do that when it's dry, and you might be able to limp your plant along for more time. Basically, it's an amputation. You're amputating this so that it doesn't spread more to the plant. Another thing that's very important, this stuff does not go in the compost heap. You're just cultivating the fungus in there. This stuff needs to be thrown away or burned. It has got to be gotten rid of. This will infect your garden for years to come. If you have this, the bacteria is in your soil, and that's why it's really hard to get rid of it down here in the south. The only thing that'll really kill it off for you is some pretty aggressive fungicide in the soil itself that I don't like to use because it hurts other things. Or a really good cold snap down into the low 20s or lower for a few days in a row. We haven't gotten that for the past couple winters down here. Even with the snow, we haven't gotten that cold, and that's why this has been so persistent in the south for the last couple years. This is the product I'm talking about. Again, it's called Serenade. Again, despite these results, despite the fact that I've been treating it, I didn't find this until this plant was already well infected. And again, I've gotten some nice tomatoes off of it. One of the things you can do when you get into this type of cycle, and this is good for your tomatoes anyway, as soon as your tomatoes start to turn just a little bit red, cut them, take them off, set them somewhere in a sunny window, or I have a table over there underneath one of my umbrellas where it gets filtered sunlight, and let it ripen off the vine. You'll get less pest problems, you'll get less blossom end rot, and I'll show you what happens. Once these get infected, you lose a lot more fruit. That is called blossom end rot. And that happens with all tomato plants. You're always going to lose some to it, but once you've got blight, the tomatoes become far more susceptible to that, and we will compost the tomato. So what I'm going to do in the next couple days is take off all the tomatoes that are mature enough to ripen in a windowsill and cut these vines out and start over. The best way, like I said, that I know to control this stuff so far is to start immediately in the year weekly treatments with Serenade using a small spray bottle. And let me show you the last thing that I'm doing with tomatoes, because I kind of got my early harvest out of these even though they're gone now, what I'm doing for my late harvest and what's really working for me this year.